All right, friends, I am glad you're here. Um, and it's March, so there aren't too many announcements, but we did just talk about the reset. It's good to keep talking about it. Even if you have people doing it this week, keep talking about it. Because this is the time of year people are thinking about weight loss. And so even if they didn't make this one, they are interested and they're watching. But what I want to talk about because it's March is that it's already time for summer planning, which is like, oh, I was like thinking I got to get my kids signed up for Parks and Rec stuff before it fills up and it's stressful and all the things. But our business is the same way because you may not know this, or I think it's so good to be reminded of this, is that the work you do today in Shaklee shows up probably about 3 months from now. Not always, but most of the time. Because how many times, raise your hand if you're on this call, have you had somebody say, I've been watching your stories for a while. I've been watching you on social media for a while. I've been watching you do this for a while. It takes time. And so this is why so many people sign up for this business and think, man, I'm gonna be really successful. And then they aren't super successful in their first 2 weeks. And then they think, well, that's it. I quit. It's not gonna work. And it's because people trust you when they see you sticking with something. And so it means that talking to somebody now, and even if they say no, it means they're going to keep watching you. So it's important for you to keep talking about what you're doing, how you're helping people, even if it's not those people, so that they can come around. Or maybe put them in a Facebook group so they get a little bit more dripping on. Ask them if, of course, they want to be a part of a Facebook group. So all that to say, the work you do today shows up 2 or 3 months from now. And that is summertime. And so Chelsea and I were just in a really great conversation because, as you know, if in case you don't, Chelsea is the most successful person on our team, and she's been around the longest, next to me. So there's a connection there. If you stick with it, you will be successful, but you have to stick with it and you have to keep growing and have to keep pivoting and learning. And Chelsea's always done that. And you also should know that Chelsea has not been 100% focused on business at all times. And I haven't either. But yet she's always had something going, something in the pot simmering while she's over here having babies or over here moving or over here working on other businesses. Something's in the pot always simmering so she can go back and fire up the pot again. And so it's never I'm going to leave the business and do this. There's always something simmering. And that's the best philosophy to work with, of not being overwhelmed all the time, because nobody wants to live life that way. Nobody wants to live life or do business overwhelmed all the time. And so just like we go through seasons in life, we go through seasons in business too. And so Chelsea and I were just talking about this, and we wanted to talk to you about that too. But before we do that, I thought it'd be good to take a little time to dream. So I hope you have a piece of paper near you. If you don't, go grab a piece of paper, because I'm just going to ask you some questions about summertime and what you want for this summer. And I want you to think specifically about your personal life. Put Shaklee to the side for a minute. But many of us have kids, and we're thinking about like what summer is going to look like with kids or maybe grandkids. And so I want you to think about what you want your summer to look like this summer, to look like apart from business. And so go ahead and just start writing things down as I'm talking, and start thinking, because you might have not thought about summer yet. But first of all, I want you to think, who is going to be there? Write the names of your kids. Maybe you want to meet up with an old friend this summer. Maybe you have a family reunion this summer. Maybe you're going to take a trip to go see somebody. Who are you going to see this summer? So that's the who category. Who's going to be involved? And who are you planning for? Because if you're planning for kids, the actions you take affect them, right? They're not planning their summer, unfortunately. And after the who, I want you to think about where. Where do you want to go? A lot of times people take trips in the summer. So where do you want to go? But this doesn't have to be a trip across the world or across the country. This could be, where do you want to take them during the day? Do you want to be out at the parks? Do you want to be at a water park? Do you want to be at the YMCA? Do you want to take them to some summer classes, special art camp? Where are the places that you're going to be taking the kids or going yourself Maybe if you're going to a conference, many of us, I think everybody here on this call, we're all going to Chicago. So that's one place you're going. So we've got the who, we've got the where, and you can always just make a list like who and where, and you can come back to these and expand on them. But I want you to think about where you want to go long term and short term in the summer. And then what special things do you want to do this summer? That kind of might go even with the where. So you can put it right next to where. What's the what? What are the things that you want to be able to do this summer that are going to make memories? What do you want to be able to afford this summer? Because there's that too. And a lot of times memories cost money. And so, what are the things that you want to do? And what are the things you want to afford to do? And I encourage you to dream on this one. Maybe there's something that you're thinking about, but you're like, I don't know if we can afford that. That might be too much. Put it on the list anyway. What if you dreamed big? You've got the who, you've got the where, you've got the what. And finally, the how. But this is not how are you going to do it, because we'll get to that. I want to know how you want to feel this summer. How do you want to feel when you're taking the kids to that place or affording that thing that you weren't able to afford before? How do you want to feel with even working your business this summer? How do you want to feel? As I think back to summers, my son, who's super anxious on the autism spectrum, he had told us that he wanted to go to 2 different Christian Bible camps in the summer. He wanted in 2 separate ones, which is like so surprising out of this kid who's anxious, but he really loves Bible camp. And so he said, well, I already am signed up for Lake Lundgren, but a bunch of my friends are going to Silver Birch. So can I go to Silver Birch too? And I remember thinking, we can't afford that. And I also remember thinking, I will be able to afford that. If my kid who is anxious and socially nervous is telling me he wants to go to camp twice, then I'm going to send him because he's excited and we're going to capitalize on this excitement so he can go make memories. And so I just encourage you to think about some of those things that, you maybe weren't able to afford, but what if you could? What if you could? And so, but that does mean that right now, because the work that you do today, remember, shows up 2 or 3 months down the line, it's so important to make this a time to work and a time to talk to new people. Because all those new people that are telling you no just might say yes in the middle of the summer when you're hanging out with your kids, but also they're going to generate business for you so that you don't have to say to the kids, I mean, there will be a little bit of, okay, guys, mom's working right now, but you won't have to say that a lot if you have people coming to you versus I need to go do work. I need to go find people. I need to go do this. It's so great when people are coming to you, but it happens because you do the work today to start planting the seeds and let the seeds grow. So Chelsea and I were talking about seasons of business in how we work in our business. And so Chelsea, because you are a person who has done this and you've done a lot of things and had a lot of outside life outside of business, what are some of your thoughts on season of business and even like right now and all the things?
Yeah, I think it's such a good conversation because we tend to focus a lot on like slow and steady wins the race, which is good. Like we should have things like I call those like our stressful fallback things, right? It's like our shake and strip every day. We're always going to do that no matter how stressful or how relaxed it is. Um, but in business, when we move so slow that we don't feel like we're moving at all, or we're just not winning enough quickly enough, we can get really frustrated. And so what I've learned is that, just like Alyssa was saying, like there are seasons where we need to sprint. And I know, like for me, anytime we were moving or I was having a baby or like summers especially, I would sprint going into that. So then during the actual summer, I would be able to move back into that like stressful fallback of maintenance, right? Of like taking care of all the new people I just brought in, um, showing up and continuing to add value, like doing those daily things, the things that we are consistent with. But I mean, when I would be sprinting, I would be having like 4 events a month. And
Mm.
Alyssa and I were talking about this too, that like we just know from doing this for so long, if I don't have something to invite to, I struggle to hit my numbers. I struggle to have conversations because I don't have anywhere where I'm sending people to go. I don't have any direction. It's like leaving for a trip and not knowing where you're going. If you don't know your target, you're going to feel like you're moving in all directions because you don't have an actual like channel to do that. And so, like when you're thinking about, is it a good time for me to sprint? Take into consideration, well, like what are the seasons coming up? Where am I right now? Where am I going to fit this in? And just understanding that, we have marathon seasons. Yeah, most of our business is a marathon, but we do have points we have to sprint, like hills, right? Like we sprint up the hill so that we can get to the top and like go down the other side slower. Katie gets that one. And so I think like sprinting, like it's a short burst of energy, but it really does make a big difference. And it really, like, you have to be fully committed though. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to have 4 events this month. And then you're like, maybe you invite to one, and then the other 3, you're like, well, nobody showed up, right? Like it's like a full-on commitment. Like I am doing 4 events this month. I am going to fill all those seats for whatever it is, whether it's in homes or webinars or just getting together with people at parks, and just being super intentional about it because it is such a short-term thing, but it's like the airplane taking off on the runway. Like it uses most of its gas to get off of the runway, but then once it's reached its elevation, right? What is it? Why can't I think of it? Traveling, no.
Coasting,
Oh,
you can coast once it
is
reaches
it
elevation.
coasting elevation or we've
Maybe,
reached
yeah,
our something
yeah,
altitude or I don't know, it doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Cruising altitude.
Thank you. Cruising
There it
altitude,
is.
right?
There
Like
it
that's
is.
the whole point. Like we get
Yeah.
to our cruising altitude, and if we're thinking about this now, we can set ourselves up to have a cruising altitude summer because we've already done a short sprint and we really threw ourselves all into it. And so now we just have the easy, like, educating members and maybe that's doing a webinar to bring in everybody, maybe that's doing a couple of customer appreciation events over the few months, but like we tend to think monthly about our business, but really we need to think annually about our business and then break it down into quarters, different seasons, right? Because everyone is busy all the time. It doesn't matter. We always say we're not going to be busy, but you've heard it said, oh, once the such and such slows down, then, we won't be. No, wrong, wrong. And so just having this, like, a business owner thinks long term. They understand like the different seasons that are coming. And so sometimes we have a big push. And so we just need to remember that. Like, if you're feeling frustrated, that you're just not getting the wins that you want, well, maybe it's a good time to step back and look, is this a sprint time? Like, can I do that? How hard can I push myself for a short amount of time? And then I can move into that cruising altitude. And that's been super helpful. I mean, I've had sprints, like I said, all throughout my business, off and on. And, you sprint and then you maintain, and then you sprint and then you maintain. And, it's like running intervals or whatever you want to call them. It really can help you with your mindset too, because what we can't do is sprint all the time. Nobody can sprint full out all the time. And also, if you walk a marathon, you won't finish ever. The bus will pick you up. Like, so, so just thinking about the cycles of business, and nobody can decide if it's a sprinting time for you except for you. And
I
then
love
you have to be the one that shows up day
I
after
love
day,
that.
right? Yeah.
I also want to add that your sprint may look different than somebody else's too.
Yeah.
And that's also okay. I think we as women are hard on ourselves and we are very quick to say, I didn't get anything done today. I have had so many conversations with leaders on my team that have said, yeah, Chelsea, okay,
That's
you want to
me.
tell that, yeah. And so how did this go, Chelsea? You told me I'm not doing anything for my business. And I said, you're not doing anything for your business? And
Right. Oh,
are
she
you,
actually had me make a list. She's
yeah.
like, okay, well, let's think about this. She's like, how are you taking care of your customers? Oh, you're still sending emails. Oh, you're still running your group. Oh, you're still helping, people come in and you're helping them get like, oh, yeah, okay, you're right. I am doing things.
And that is the maintenance stuff. And I think that's
That's
good. And
cruising
so,
altitude, man.
right. And I think it's good for us as a team, or even for you to think about what is your sprinting activities. Chelsea mentioned four events a month. I would say any event is a sprinting activity. Maybe you want to do 4 events. Maybe you want to do one because you haven't done any in 2 years. Then even just one event, that might be your sprint. Although I encourage you to do 2, because always your work creates more work. Your work in this is going to create more work. It's just like I said, right now I've got a reset going on. I've got all these people that are in the reset, and I got a ton of people talking to me about the next reset. So I'm like, well, I guess I got to host another reset. Oh, well, I guess I've got to make some money, help some people get healthy. Perfect, right? So just think of it that way, that events are your sprint. And the maintenance that Chelsea mentioned, educating members, sending emails, customer appreciation, taking care of who's already in there, that stuff is so much easier. We have less feelings of like somebody's going to reject me in those maintenance because they already said yes and they started on a few products. It's such a nice feeling. That's both should be done all the time. But the truth is, we don't always have time for both. And so, but if you want to grow your business, do some of those sprinting activities and, of course, maintain who you already have. But then if it's not a time that you can sprint, then just focus on maintenance. And so it's really true that slow and steady, even still a little bit, if you're beating yourself up and saying, well, I'm not sprinting enough, I just want to say any small thing. Maybe another sprint for you is posting more on social media. I know some of us are trying to get our sea legs on social media. That could be your sprint. What if you say, I'm gonna post 3 times a week on social media? I'm gonna post 2 times a week, because you went from going 0 to posting 1 or 2 times a week, right? So think about, everybody's sprinting looks different, but what does your sprinting look like? But I do want you to know, sprinting includes talking to people about Shaklee. It's not cleaning your desk. It's not, those kind of things.
It's not just making lists.
It's not just making a list,
Lists.
right? Oh, the list is so fun, and you feel like you got work done, but you didn't. You didn't talk to anybody. And so the sprinting always includes talking to new people. One other thing I want to suggest to you, because you've got the summer coming up. I remember being at a place in my business a couple years in where I felt like I have run out of people to talk to. Well, if I host an event, who am I going to ask to come to it, right? If you've been in that place, then I want you to think about what all the other network marketers of old have done. And that is, they ask a friend to host an event. What if you ask one of your loyal members to host an event? And of course, you reward them with great products, whether people buy or not. I would often reward people just for inviting people, because I want to get people in the door. Usually, if people come in the door, they're going to buy anyway. So, ask a friend to host an event and say, I'm willing to gift you lots of stuff. You get people in the door, and you talk about whatever product they hadn't been able to afford that they told you they wanted, right? I have a good friend that I was raised with in Texas, and she lived in Michigan at the time. And I thought, man, I would love to go visit her. And so I told her, hey, I've got this business and I know you wanted to hear more about it. What if you hosted an event and I could come visit you, and it could be a tax write-off? And she was like, I love that idea. Come and visit me. And so I came, and I brought my one kid I had at the time. I think I and my pregnant belly too, or maybe I had 2 at that point. But anyway, so think about creative ways to get out of them, to get out there and meet new people. Gwen says, what offer so not a loss, but a deal for them? I give them 10% of product sales or Shaklee bucks. Like I said, Gwen, I try to not pressure any sales to happen. I encourage them to get as many people in the door. So back when I did this a long time ago, I said $10 of products for every person you get in the door. I do think because of inflation, it's better to think more about like $15 or $20 I mean, $20 is a little high, but if you're a business leader, remember, they're paying a different price than you. So, but I made it high because I wanted them to be motivated to invite people. Because the more people you get in the door, the more your odds are that you're going to be successful, or you're going to get their names and you're going to be able to follow up with them. You can put them in your Facebook groups, you get to know them. by having a few people do that for me over the years, I have met so many people I wouldn't have met before. So, as you're thinking about your summer, do you have a friend that you could drive to and go visit and they would be willing to have you and gets you in a new town or use some of your friends that are close by, right? Ask them about it. And I was always just honest and said, "Hey, I'm looking to meet new people, and so I'm happy to reward you greatly just for getting people in the door." My only caveat was they've never heard a Shackley presentation before. Okay. Because especially if you're in your own town and they've come to like your presentation before, well then okay, that doesn't count. But they're still welcome to come and cheer you on, right? So yeah, exactly. So, oh, asking a friend in Atlanta to host on spring break in 2 weeks. Exactly. And guess what? That also makes your trip tax deductible. So think about how you can do this kind of stuff in the summer and you can write off some of that mileage to go visit an old friend. How awesome is that? So,
And I think just remembering too, we're in the business of collecting friends and making connections because if we don't know people, we can't help them. And so just being intentional. Karen and I were talking about this today of like, we go places like stores and parks and all of these. Like, what if we just went the extra few steps and started a conversation and then said, "Hey, I'd love to keep talking. Are you on Facebook or
yes.
whatever? Or can I just get your number and we can hang out sometime?" It's not weird. It's only weird if
Not
you make
weird.
it weird.
Yeah. Um, and then Gwen says some are lost customers though. Not sure if they say no, I'll visit them for coffee and just reconnect. Yeah, exactly. So that's an idea too. But yeah, any thoughts or questions about this seasons of business, seasons of sprinting, seasons of maintenance, summertime? Any thoughts or things to add? All right. Well, I want to encourage you. I'm just going to say right now is a really good time for sprinting. So I encourage you to sprint right now for the next few months before summertime comes. I know Julie's going out of town for spring break, so it's maybe just a little sprint because right now she's getting ready for spring break. But great news, then after that, you've got some time to sprint. So think of this time as a time to sprint because the summer, you want to enjoy your summer. You want to be able to soak it up. And yes, keep simmering that pot, like I explained, and maintaining, but it's the connecting with new people and growth and actually hosting an event, the stuff that takes work, do it now because it's planting seeds to have it all come to fruition this summer. So, all right, friends, so glad you were here and we will keep chatting. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for sharing. And oh, let me take your picture because we're all so beautiful. And maybe I'll see Julie's face. Maybe not. She might be doing something else. All right. Okay, friends. Glad you're here. See you later. Bye.